Welcome to a quick video on the vagus nerve, which I hope you will enjoy. The vagus nerve is part of what is called the autonomic, hard to say, nervous system, or ANS, a little more simply. And the ANS is what basically keeps all those functionings going in your body that we don't have to think about. So one of the things is sort of, if you hold your breath and let it go, the question is, once you let go, what is keeping your heart going? What is dealing with all your digestion? Well, a lot of that is dealt with the ANS, and the ANS has two sides of it. So the ANS consists of two sides. One is the sympathetic nervous system, and the other is the parasympathetic nervous system. And for me, I get those kind of mixed up sometimes, because you'd think that the sympathetic nervous system would be the good one. Not that there's a good or bad, but the one that would be calming, but it's not. So that's kind of how I remember it's opposite than what one might normally think. So the parasympathetic and the sympathetic sides are part of the ANS, the autonomic nervous system, and part of all of that also is the vagus nerve. So the sympathetic nervous system is basically your fight and flight. So when you are under stress, whether it is real or perceived or even not real, as in you might be watching a scary movie or something, stressed out over a bank account, or maybe your job that you might be not doing at the moment. So all those things are the ones where your sympathetic nervous system gets basically hooked into dealing with stuff. So it raises your heart rate, constricts your blood vessels down, so actually your blood pressure goes up. So basically, you know, all those things that you need if you're going to run away from that saber-toothed tiger which was chasing you, which obviously is not. And unfortunately it stays like that for a little while, and if we keep in that stressful state, as in keep worrying about those things, ruminating over things, we end up being in that stressful situation. The other side is the parasympathetic nervous system, and that side is much more regulated, or has a lot to do with the vagus nerve. So your vagus nerve runs like from your head all the way down to your butt, basically. It basically helps regulate a lot of things. So your parasympathetic is the side that is the rest and digest, is a way to think about it. And obviously that's the bit where your blood vessels are not constricted, so you've got good blood flow, and then also that your digestion is working. And so when you're eating, that's generally what happens, which is kind of, if you think about it, when we eat, we feel sort of tired or relaxed. So that all kind of links in. So how does that link with the vagus nerve? Well, basically the vagus nerve is very much part of the parasympathetic. The vagal pathway kind of regulates like your heart, your lungs, your gut, liver, those types of things. The vagus nerve and the vagal pathway, as it were, communication system to your organs. So whether you're in fight or flight, or if you're in rest and digest, it controls things like anxiety, inflammation, hunger, and obviously, yes, your immune system hugely so, because as you may or may not know, our immune system has a lot to do with our gut and the microbiome in your gut. So that's a huge thing, which then comes back to the vagus nerve and why you should have good vagal tone. And there are ways to exercise that maybe exercise isn't the right word, but to get a good vagal tone. One of those things is breath work. Another is meditation. So one of the great things about the vagus nerve and vagal tone, and tone, you know, if you think about your muscle tone, it's the same sort of thing. It's a a sign of health, good tone. Vagal tone can be affected or is seen to be good with people that are compassionate. And why was that? Because if you think about it, when you're compassionate, how do you feel? You're generally calm, you've got slow breathing. That's all to do with the parasympathetic, and you're not the other way around. You're not anxious or angry, which is going to raise your heart rate and shut things down, and that's not good. So it has a lot to do with inflammation, and inflammation has a huge amount to do with general health, because that is how we heal, is by inflammation. But if it continues too much, then that's not good. Yes, to begin with, your inflammation is good, but too much is not good, and then everything starts going haywire. Doing things like yoga is awesome for vagal tone, because it basically brings in the whole point of breathing. I mean, yoga and breathing is one. You can do breathing techniques such as box breathing. Make sure that your parasympathetic is hooked in by if you make sure that your out breath is longer than your in breath. So you could take a quick in breath of, say, 2 count, and then let that breath go nicely and slowly. And actually, when you're talking, that naturally happens, but you can do it without talking, and you can imagine yourself breathing out through a straw, and that's going to elongate that exhale. So your exhale is going to be longer. So what about the vagus nerve and inflammation? Well, I've got some kind of cool stuff that actually came from a great course I did with Dr. David Hamilton. If you guys have not heard of him, look him up, and all his books are awesome, and he has a great website and some really, 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 really neat self-development stuff. I think he even has a little club which is really affordable and well worth checking into. So it's about the inflammatory reflex, and that basically describes how the vagus nerve controls inflammation by turning down the inflammatory genes. Once the vagus nerve senses that there's enough inflammation for repair, so maybe you have an injury, for example, it basically signals inflammatory genes to switch off, which is really important for wound healing, because then everything goes together, and let's say it's a cut, stitches back together again, and you end up, that scab falls off and great. Or you're always stressing out and your vagus tone isn't good, maybe the inflammation doesn't get shut off because you're still in that fight or flight, and you're anxious, and all of a sudden things don't heal so quickly. Or maybe you even get sick because inflammation happens internally as well. Because inflammation happens throughout the body, and that includes your blood vessels, this is generally a side effect of stress and poor diet, lifestyle, bad choices. So if you're, having too many late nights, maybe drinking too close to bedtime and not getting really good sleep, and things like that, or smoking, you're going to get into a thing that they call persistent or chronic low-grade inflammation, which is not a good thing at all, because you can stay sick, and then because your immune system's down, then you can catch other things, and it's like just as soon as you get rid of one thing, it feels like you got another, and you may be the person that is forever catching colds from whether you're kids or work or somewhere. Poor diet, lifestyle choices, and that it can basically cause that persistent or chronic low-grade inflammation. And that occurs when inflammation occurs more abundantly in the body than the body is able to control. So that obviously plays a huge amount in disease. Oops, look, we've got nasty things going at the moment, and also aging. So if you want to age well, you might want to get good vagal tone. So having a high vagal tone is actually really important for your body and sort of body-wide anti-inflammation. How can you get that anti-inflammation going and good vagal tone? Well, one of them is compassion, and that's a big one for David Hamilton, because he is the kindness guru. Meditation is great, because that's working the parasympathetic nervous system. Really any meditation. There is one that is really good, is metta or loving kindness meditation, which I think I'm pretty sure there's a video on the group here of loving kindness, so you could follow that. Also, breathing is excellent, so box breathing as we mentioned, and then making sure that your exhale is longer than your inhale. So in closing, there's a few things that you can help to help your vagal tone and improve your health overall. Would be listen to your favorite music and pay close attention to lyrics and instrumentals. So it's, calming. Practicing simple breathing exercises. So breathe in for, let's say, 4, hold for a couple of seconds, doesn't really matter, and then just let it out slowly over 7, 8. It's fun it can go longer. Exhale longer than your inhale. Box breathing is fun. Box breathing is basically sort of up, across, down, and across. So it could be 4, 4, 4, 4. So you inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, and you're back to the beginning. And that's a fun thing to do when you're walking, because actually it's mindful as well, which also helps. So box breathing is really good for vagal tone, and actually just general health, it's good for you. So you can try that. Watching something funny, compassion, kindness, they're all great for vagal tone. So hey, I hold my hand up here. Yes, I watch Britain's Got Talent just because it makes me laugh. I mean, and you feel great compassion. So again, you're doing your body a great deal of good. Hugs are great at the moment. Obviously, you can't hug your friends and everything, but you can hug your dog, hug your family that you're living with. Hugging, it basically affection. It strengthens your vagal tone. Going out for a brisk walk, because again, exercise promotes positive vagal tone again. So, and then finally, watch your nutrition, because food is medicine. So what you put in your body has everything to do with how you feel over the long term. It's not just how you feel tonight, but it can affect you long term. As in, if you are carrying weight that you don't need to be carrying, you are, and there's lots of studies out there, you're not doing yourself any favors in the long run. It's all to do, again, it comes back to I cannot say that word. Inflammation, let's just use that word. So yes, it comes back to inflammation. So without further ado, I think, that just about covers the vagus nerve. Remember, it's to do with your ANS, your autonomic nervous system, which has one side, your sympathetic nervous side, and the other side is your parasympathetic. And so your sympathetic, remember, is kind of sounds opposite. It's not the good one. It's the one that is going to save you when that saber-toothed tiger is coming at you, and it's going to raise your heart rate. It's going to stop your digestion, blood flow to your gut and everything, basically, to help it then push more blood out with tighter, constrict your blood vessels, so you've got a higher pressure of blood zooming out to your muscles, so you can run like hell away or beat that, attack whatever it is, that alligator or whatever, to get your food. Unfortunately, we haven't, for some reason, I don't know why, we haven't evolved that much in that sense. So that's your sympathetic nervous system, whereas your parasympathetic nervous is the one that is the rest and digest. Anyway, that is about it. Otherwise, this will go on. Yes, you'll figure that out with me. So thank you so much for watching. Please share the group with your friends. Ask your friends to come join the group. If you've got questions, pop them in there. We'd love to hear any questions, and live with